Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Re-review time. A beer, I mean, you never know what you're going to find out there in the universe. A beer I never thought I'd get the re-review that I actually kind of, sort of, was looking forward to. Re-reviewing. Cameron's Brewing out of Canada. This is Where the Buffalo Roam barrel-aged barley wine. Yeah. So I have reviewed a bunch of Cameron's beers when I used to go up and visit the gang up in Canada quite a bit. It's been a long time since I've gone up that way. But 2018, my buddy Yui, he sent me off a box of beers, and one of these were in there. Now that one had a fancy box and all that kind of stuff. But I reviewed it, and it wasn't all that impressed with it, to be perfectly honest with you. It was alright. It was just a little bit too green for my tastes. I couldn't quite kind of break down the dating on it and all that kind of stuff, so I wasn't quite sure how old it was. Doing a little bit of rewatching my review, doing a little bit of sleuthing, I think that beer was less than a year old. Because I think, based off of this can and what I've seen on the internet, I think I've deciphered the code. So, at the time of filming, it was less than a year old. I reviewed it then, and I said, well, you know, if you have 10 years to wait, maybe this is going to turn into something that I would really, really enjoy. It was just hyper, like, Bigfooty green kind of barley wine. Lo and behold, I go on a trip, and I step into this random little wine shop, and I have a bunch of stuff, and I see this sitting on a shelf, and I go, oh my gosh. I didn't know they actually distributed in the United States. I guess they did for a hot minute. And looking at this actually has these numbers on it. Well, I'll show them to you. You can read it yourself. And what it says is A, 16, 18, 13, colon, double dot thing, 01. To me, that's 1301. Means that's a time. Okay, so you're talking about 1:01 in the afternoon is when it's canned. A, 16, 18. I'm almost positive that is April 16th, 2018. If that is the case, then that can that I reviewed in 2018 was from 2017. So if you do the math, we're looking at 7 years. Right? Am I mathing correctly? Yes, 7 years. Actually, a bit over 7 years on this sucker. So I'm kind of curious to dive back into this beer with that extra time on it, because I really wanted to see what it was like with that time on it. Now, there's some assumptions going on here with this, but I think I'm correct. So here we go. What else do we got on the can here? I'm not going to read all this. I read it in the first review. If you want to go back and read it. Here it says it was imported by Esper Beverage Company, Canton, Ohio. Brewed in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. 13% alcohol by volume. And they talk about toasted coconut and all the things you typically see when you're talking about a oak bourbon barrel aged barley wine. So yeah, there we go. I want to say I paid $7 American for this. So let's see where this sucker lands. Now, rewatched the review, something I typically don't do, but man, that what I talked about this beer being was rocket fuel. That beer looks way different than the one that I just watched. Murkier, at least it does on camera. I mean, I think it does. It has this haziness to it the other one didn't really have. But I'll tell you right now, it's throwing some heat from a distance. Label-wise, I actually really do dig this label. Something about it. It's very wordy. Very kind of, I don't know, old-timey postery or something. But I dig on it. So, and man, that looks like a very creamy, let's put it that way, barley wine. Look at that head on that sucker. Gave it a pour, gave it a whirl. You have an index finger of this, oddly, it's like a malted malt ball, but with a tinge of almost like reddish orange to it. So that's kind of unique. And that body, I mean, it is very much kind of in that Belgian double E, Belgian quad-y kind of territory as far as looks go. Maybe even a touch lighter than that. So American strong ale / barley wine through and through looks-wise. Has that nice kind of fluffy, creamy head on it. It looks actually like a very beautiful, very soft beer with the way that head kind of comes off. But like I said, from a distance, we're spitting hot fire. It's a Dylon beer. Yeah, let's give it a huff. Man, I smell this big earthy greeniness to it, so I think this thing is still going to show with a decent amount of hops on it. Now, I could be totally wrong. If someone from Cameron's or somebody that knows, actually on the side here, there's this number 2. I don't know if that's the number of cans they've ever produced or what that code has to do with anything. So take that for what it's worth. If we can nail down a date on that, that's awesome. Man, it smells like an aged American barley wine, but with those hops really kind of showing through. It smells like, a several-year-old kind of Bigfoot, which kind of tracks from a hop perspective, not necessarily from a malt perspective, but it definitely kind of tracks from a hop perspective in the way that I kind of referenced that older version that I've gotten into. So big, greeny, kind of aged hops, not getting a huge kind of bourbon on a nose, maybe a slight little sweet syrupiness to it. I believe I'm actually getting, even with that aggressive hoppiness, a decent amount of oak off this sucker. And done. I mean, it smells like a big beer, but I'm really curious to see how the sucker plays and which direction it kind of falls with how big it is and what it's displaying and what I remember from history and also rewatching that review. So we're just going to dive right in because gotta find out. Cheers, y'all. Yeah, this beer is 100% got some time on it. 100%. But it's still very aggressive on the bittering side of things. But man, something I didn't really remember or don't remember from my rewatch is mentioning mouthfeel. We had an absolutely epic level mouthfeel here. That softness that we kind of assumed based off the way the nose is kind of coming and the visuals of it follow through into the taste. It's got this softness and this richness to it that's absolutely beautiful. Big bittering components here. You're getting a drying from that oak tannins from that spirit barrel. But on the other side of things, you have a hyper aggressively hopped beer. This is like again, Bigfoot. This is like 120. Dogfish had 120 level of hopping going on here. And then on the other side of things, you have this cool kind of just eking towards a sugar daddy kind of sweetness to it. So this thing has definitely seen some age to it. It is aged absolutely perfectly. Again, that is that, can thing that is just the negative oxygen is really not a big thing at play here, whether it's a cap or cork. So I think you got a little bit more decently hermetically sealed kind of beer here, and to just let it kind of grow into this kind of now what I would call, which I'm a little bit more palate's changed too. You have to keep that in mind. The hyper aggressive hopped American barley wines I'm a little bit more in tune with nowadays, so it could be a little bit more of that. But I assure you, based off of my experience with beer in general, this has to have seen some time. And I think it's seen a decent amount of time. I think it's seen all of those 7 years. Excuse me. But it's that combination of that sweeter sugar daddy malt base that has kind of morphed into that over the years. Again, hidden underneath that big, dry, oaky hoppiness. It's definitely there. And the way the hop's going to come off, it's not punchy, it's not green, it's just aggressive. It's more like a Belgian aged hop kind of thing, but it's still definitely there in spades. Again, think your 5, 6, 7-year-old Bigfoot or 120, something along those lines, hop-wise. And that's where this one is really, really cool to revisit. And the fact that I can actually get another one of these off the shelf, I might actually have to do that and see where this sucker lands in that full 10-year window. Because that's what I said in the original review. And I'm kind of echoing that here, is that I think this beer is just a little bit too aggressive. With time on it, this thing is tracking to become something absolutely fantastic. Same thing as Bigfoot, same thing as 120. For me, again, that's a 10-year plus beer. I say that, and I said this in the previous video, I'll say it again. A lot of people like nod, joke, wink, 10 years, huh? No, I'm dead set. 120, Bigfoot, 10 years is when they start to really kind of gain momentum, at least for me, if they're kept well. This sucker is kept well, and it has tracked. It has become a much better beer for me. Let's put it that way. It has tempered those hops, but they're still there. I enjoy that. The way that malt base is kind of rounded out into that soft little sugar daddy kind of thing, and the mouthfeel is absolutely epic. So to see this in that 7 years and kind of wonder now, hey, I might have been right on this 10-year plan for this beer. I'm going to have to stop back to this place, pick up another one of these, hide it from myself because I'll get too excited and just drink it to see what's going on. Or if they have multiples, maybe I'll do that, kind of knowing myself. And end up being a cool little experiment over those 10 years. 10 years. Because this is a really fun beer now. I wasn't all into it when I first had it. Again, asterisks, palates change, people change, beers change. It could be a different batch. All those things can change over time. But the way this thing has tracked and the way I reacted in my previous review, which, not that long ago, 2018, it's not like I'm not markedly different of a person, a bit more gray. But man, this is a fun ager. And I'm honestly, I really need to kind of figure out how this dating works. Maybe I'm going to shoot off a Instagram to Cameron's and try to ask them straight up and be like, how old is this can? I need to know. And we'll maybe in the comments below, we'll kind of report back on that. But in the grand scheme of things, this is one of those fun long haul agers, and I think that 10 to 15 year mark is going to be absolutely cash money for these suckers. So if you have these sitting in your cellar, and you have multiples, let's put it that way, I'd crack one now just for that journey, especially if you had it relatively fresh, and to see where the sucker goes in the next couple of years. I think we might be like all time when it comes to aging beer. That's not hyperbole. That's genuine. What I think of this beer. Yeah, that was fun. I'm glad I saw this on the shelf. I was so excited. I have to get back down to that place, grab some more. Anyway, so yeah, back to the actual beer itself instead of my thoughts on past, present, and future. Hot present, still hyper aggressive, but a decent bit more manageable. Super sultry mouthfeel, rounded with that soft little sugar daddy. I say soft because it's so bittering, and you have those big oak tannins. Pretty devoid of a bourbon characteristic here. If I dig for it, I can talk myself into a little bit of syrupy sweetness, but it's really more of an oak hop jam here as opposed to a bourbon barrel-aged jam. Is it one of the better American barley wines that I've had as late? Sure, we'll put it in the mix for sure, without a doubt. Is it Mount Rushmore status? No, but man, as aged beers go, it's one of the better barley wines I've had as late. Again, we're just going to have to keep it on the outside. Look at it at least from a Mount Rushmore status. There are ones that have done me proper, but I could see this again. Another 5 or so years on this sucker, be singing a different tune. So yeah, let's talk about it. Talk about Mount Rushmore, valued availability, finding beers like this off the shelf in Jersey is just weird. So your mileage is definitely going to vary. I'm sure this is hard to find in Canada, an aged version of this at this point. And leave you with, if you like what will you like this beer? If you like aged, again, Sierra Nevada 120, what else? Hair to Dog beers, some of their big American Strong, American Barleywine beers. If you dig on those, more specifically, you dig on them when they're aged, you will dig on this. So there we go, review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Down there if you want to talk about it, Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Cameron's. Have you been to the brewery? I have not. Have you had their beers? I've had a bunch. I went to a couple festivals, got a bunch of beers from them when I was up in Canada, got some sent to me. So y'all, thoughts down below, your experience at Cameron's, your experience with this beer, and more specifically, if you understand the dating on this, unless I find out from Cameron's direct. Curious, your thoughts on this beer. All that fun stuff below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of Where the Buffalo Roam. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.